Welcome, everyone, to Standards Michigan's weekly teleconference. Our regularly scheduled Friday teleconference will not be interactive. This is a recording. We will be taking a look at the construction spend rate released on July 1st by the U.S. Commerce Department. Over to you, Mike.
And every month we try to square what our efforts are with a larger picture. So what we have here every month, the Commerce Department comes out with a number. It's 2 months. It's backward-looking data, and we call this one of our marquee numbers. We do numbers once a month, so to say. So this is our once a month numbers update, and what you'll see here is a portion of yesterday's release. You'll see that the construction put in place for education is about 81.5 billion, and for healthcare is about 39 billion. Now, the way they slice these numbers, it's important to understand that this number here is the total construction, and then they break it up into residential, then they break it up into private and to public construction. So it can be a little bit difficult. So we focus largely on this headline number. That's the number you'll see on our blog site. Just to give you some insight, a little bit more. So we've seen that number. I apologize for the resolution. This is a screen capture. I didn't have time to download the whole PDF, but that PDF is actually available on the blog page. It applies to this particular teleconference. Here you see education. This is private education, private education spending, construction spending, and healthcare. There's more organizations in the private market, and that's the 30 billion. So when you deduct those two from this number up there, anyway, these numbers will all shake out. I don't want to bore you too much with them, but our headline number remains intact. We'll review that again a little bit in the future. To give you some sense of scale, we also do this every month. This is part of a clicker presentation we gave some years ago, so we give the audience a chance to understand a little bit more about the numbers we're dealing with. So I would ask these questions here. I have 5 numbers here. What do you think? We ask certain questions. What's the gross domestic product, the U.S. gross domestic product for 2012? And so we'll get our answers here. The entire European gross domestic product, the European Union, the 25 to 27 countries, depending how you count. With Greece the way it is, one wonders if that'll be counting anymore. But in any case, their market size, the gross domestic product of that entire union is, at least in 2012, was 16 trillion. The gross domestic product of the United States was about 15.6 trillion then. As you can see, it has increased to about 17.4 trillion for 2014. We always like to bring China in here. China's growth rate is very high, as you'll begin to see, but their gross domestic product is not our size yet. But the growth rate certainly is. So let's see, there's a couple other numbers we like to work with. Mexico. Okay, so you'll see farther on here that the gross domestic product of the entire education industry, that includes salaries of professors and football programs and parking and all that, that's part of the 1.2 trillion number we focused on. It's a nice clean number. It's probably a little bit higher right now, but it works for us for a while until such time it gets to be, say, 1.6 trillion. But again, this number includes the salaries of everyone, whereas we'd like to break out just the facility component. So that ends up being the gross domestic product of Mexico. So the entire U.S. education industry is about the size of the gross domestic product of Mexico. What else do we have here? Okay, 303 billion. What was that one? That one was Israel. It turns out that just the facility spend, that would mean the part that we're interested principally in, new construction, renovations, operations, energy, security, all that is in here. It also includes telecommunications, information and communications technology. So this is the number we like to use for the moment, and just for reference, the total world gross domestic product is 75 trillion. So we also like to point out that where the United States stands with respect to how much of gross domestic product is devoted to education. You can see here they break it up by college and post-secondary education. So this is kind of a handy number to get a sense of where we are with other developed countries. Let's see what we have next year. Okay, so most of our, let's put it this way, a large part of our data comes from the market studies produced by IBISWorld. IBISWorld takes the industrial code of every industry, and I believe this is the industrial code right here for our industry. And they explain how much our revenue was. They break it up into revenue as well as wages. So we tend to break this out. We discard that number because we assume that a large part of that is teaching and research support salaries. So when we talk about the spend, you'll see that we'll be working with these different numbers, and you'll see how they shake out a little bit better. Here is, what is this one? This is public schools. Okay, public schools are large. The revenue coming into them is $635 billion. As you can see, unlike us, they are, let's go back to, we are growing, they are not. And this is a little bit off the map. You can see we're growing at this rate. And let's see, what do we have over here again? I found myself back in reverse. So that's public schools. This is private schools. That would be the Ivy Leagues and such and so forth. 55 billion there. Geez, Harvard's revenue endowment is about 35 billion. So that gives you a sense of, again, of how much money we're dealing with here. And then I believe, what's the next one we have? Community colleges. Community colleges, 60 billion spend. And when you add all this stuff up, so here, what do we have? Nonprofit, get a sense of scale for the nonprofit industry. So we put them all together. We broke out the wages. We took, these are, again, more numbers to scale ourselves by. We look at all of our costs, and our first running costs, again, the $300 billion that we include healthcare in. This would be university-affiliated healthcare systems. And there are many of them. And then we're roughly 10%, 8 to 10% of that $300 billion is just the cost of BTUs, either gas or electric. Rack them all up, take out the labor, and you get a number like this. So all costs after labor. And there's all kinds of stuff in there, furniture, security, items like that we have to try to work around. So this is probably the higher number. So we use other numbers available from other industries. From other sources rather. This is just another update. That was a previous update. We're still going to stick with our 300 billion, but we in the back of our mind we'll take the latest data from IBIS and we'll find out that 2012 data we see about a 6% increase in costs after labor. So if anyone's interested, I'm happy to show you how these market studies interlocked to help us put the picture together. This is just a flavor of it, so you understand what the construction number is, and you can put that one in context. So this is American School University, usually the go-to source for this kind of information. 2 years ago, they identified 242 billion as the spend of the facilities component. In 2014, it looks like it went down, up a little bit. 313.9 billion. Now this is 2015, and you'll see that it seems to be down to about 286 billion. The facilities component alone, where do we stand with respect to, say, the annual revenue of some companies? So we're roughly twice the size of General Electric. The electrical itself, we like to say it's something on the order of 30 to 60 billion, so somewhere in this area here. I just picked a few of the multinationals. I use the multinationals because they are a large supplier of the equipment that we use. In buildings, typically the four largest pieces of equipment are generators, electrical substations, elevators, and HVAC equipment. A lot of labor is devoted, a lot of construction in place, and construction conducted on site is done on those four pieces of equipment. Of course, a larger part of it is the skin and the bones, the structure, the bricks, the windows, fenestration, doors of that nature. But in any case, you get a sense of one of the things that why we follow the multinationals is because they have a large influence over obviously the cost and where the direction of research is, but it's also a lot of labor cost is embedded in the way they make their products. And many of these organizations, I'll just take Schneider and General Electric, or these here, many of the parts do not meet each other ever except at the job site. So we make the point that we're getting our parts, even as automobiles get their parts from different sources, different countries, buildings now are getting their parts from different countries. So, again, more numbers. We like to look at the budget. I believe this is just the federal budget. It's not the gross domestic product. You get a sense of, I think this is not meant to convey dollars, but it does convey proportion. I think if you look at the Department of Education, we're somewhere in this area. Now, this is just the federal side, right? This is not the state. State governments also do something. So you see this number reflected farther upstream in a slide back before. So again, the numbers seem to jive. They correlate mostly, or strong correlation. Okay, so we also make a point here once a month to say where we are in our economic growth rate. Sometimes it might inform the way our attitude to what we want to spend on facilities. And so we're looking at a growth rate here, which seems to toggle. It seems to average right about 3% here, average. But at the moment we're slowing down a bit but I didn't actually see that down in the numbers farther upstream. So that's interesting. It's interesting anomaly there. So in any case, again, this supports the case that when I say that a lot of the global diversified manufacturers want to do their business in faster growing economies. So this would be what you would call a faster growing economy in this area here. Over here, not so much. More mature markets, but over here, fresher markets. And it makes a difference because these organizations here, the standards that are developed here very often are easy to promulgate out here. And we're not that isolated. We still have the largest markets, as you know, but to some degree, our multinationals and the way money is invested, we all have investments in pension funds or mutual funds, and infrastructure money is a certain flavor of money. It moves at a certain rate. It stays in place in a certain rate, which conforms well to a lot of the economic objectives of pension funds. So that's why we want to watch what the global diversified manufacturers do, and they are looking eastward. And you'll see that reflected in the standards. That's a different discussion. Now, if this were interactive, I would probably be asking Christine to nudge me on time. How am I doing on time? Because we're almost done.
Yes, we're at about 18 minutes.
Oh, I love it. 18 minutes. I'm getting good at this. Any observations on what I just whistled by there, Christine?
Just, I think, to underscore the scope of the educational facilities industry and how we are needing to be at the table more in regards to standards development.
Yeah, that's those organizations that we saw are able to build the cost of their advocacy, or we could say it another way, they're able to build their market making activities to the cost of their product. And of course, we are a large market. The private industry still, industry manufacturing still presents a large market, but education facilities, healthcare facilities, it's a public sector largely. Our money moves at a certain rate, which often is one that they build into their financial models for long, short, intermediate cycle investment. So, okay, let's get.
And one other observation would be just that you mentioned that we're not isolated, and so the international scope has an impact on our positioning in the standards arena.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, back in '97 when I approached our management, I said, gosh, I've been in my career 10, 15 years, and I can't believe how much we're being told what we're supposed to be doing by other parties. And so that's when I got nominated to the NEC, and I've been there since. I will tell you with the same level of certainty that the pace of global internationalization of these infrastructure markets is startling to me, and the organization that really the industry that gets it will be the one that grows and thrives. You'll probably know in a separate, on our blog site, you'll notice also that we'll be having ANSI here again in September as well as next May. And this message will be continued. If our industry would like to convey its, if we would like to expand our markets overseas, or we'd like to have our overseas investment over here, it's working in both directions. In order to be an importer, you have to be an exporter, and vice versa. Okay, so I promised numbers for everybody, and so we've had some this past month. We've had some what I'll call code wins. We think they're wins because the ASHRAE committee, the ASHRAE actually met last week, and some of the technical committees met. So some of these issues that we think we got were positively received, as we understand from some of the technical committee members. Of course, there's always things could change in the final vote, but I wanted to let you know where this. This is what a piece of raw data looks like. So this is me. We intervened on an ASHRAE standard, and we wanted to know what meaning does it have to our organization. And so we went through and we realized that if that particular type of technology, which now they want to put outside air temperature sensors and humidity sensors on every fan, and it's not just on every fan, you have to get wires, you've got to get the wires terminated on firmware. Firmware has got to be piped into a software interface, and you've got a whole end-to-end signaling chain you have to deal with. What does that mean for just the University of Michigan? So this is my colleague here. We're vetting our numbers. This is one of the main emails. So this is what raw data looks like. I just thought I'd let you know, and a number of people had actually confirmed that. I'll tend to press down because I'm a little bit afraid of overstating our claims, but they do seem to follow a trend. And this is one that we did back in June 2 years ago, and we racked up all of the just the code achievements that we'd actually accomplished, and we seem to have gotten about 2%, what we call avoided cost opportunity, out of it. That means that you are permitted, we made code changes to relax prescriptive or made it clear that designers had the option of doing these things that before were more difficult and more expensive. If you so choose not to do them, you're welcome to do it, but that's why we're careful to say avoided cost opportunity. We have relaxed the code requirements for this or that, as you saw farther upstream, or we have pushed back on what is frequently what you call green overreach, which is they're adding more complexity than is necessary to do the job. And so this is a 2013, this is 2 years ago, and we've updated it since, and what we've done is we have added what is in process, meaning that given that many of these infrastructure standards, technical business issues require 3 to 6 years of handling. So what does a pipeline look like? So we changed the spreadsheet, we expanded it. Of course, it becomes more complicated with a bigger picture. And so I've tried to summarize that here. So this is the second quarter update. If you get in a little, drill in a little bit deeper here, you'll start to see that when you add up all the possibilities here, we're seeing something out of about another 3.4%. Downward pressure and your ability to release value. We changed the scale, by the way, of the building. We went from $100 million to a $50 million building. We just scaled by half. Same thing. So it's important to understand that this is just cost, that should be avoidance, cost avoidance opportunities that architects and engineers of a new $50 million building. There are many campus infrastructure technologies between buildings. So just because we're working on a building, that's kind of a discrete unit which everyone can understand, but we're also doing things between buildings. The medium voltage distribution systems, the steam tunnels, the information and communication technologies running through. And there are actually even some labor and security standards that we've had our fingers in. So that kind of gives you a sense of what our numbers look like, closer to the ground, so to say. And here's a markup. We're going to do our, we call this a Hansen chart after my colleague Lowell Hansen, who said, I need to see how all this stuff is accumulating. So here we're going to be, I'll be having my graphic artists add this. We're making some adjustments. We did not get our NEC changes that we wanted in 2017 for the first half. We'll try again, But again, when you're moving money in 10 to $100 billion chunks, or 10 to $25 billion chunks, you can't expect it to move quickly, especially when there has to be consensus and it's the public sector and there's not strong price signaling going on close to the point of sale, so to say. So in any case, with some confidence, after agonizing over these numbers, we think we can put this out there with some confidence. And this is about the 5th or 6th year we've done this. So this is what it'll look like when it gets cleaner. Gwen will be working on that, make it a little prettier to look at. So in any case, I guess to summarize here, we like to say that we're in the fine line business. This is a least square. This is a graphical representation of least squares, which means that in many cases we overdo things. In some cases we underdo them. I think it's fairly clear that we're trending upward, I mean in a good way, which in our case is driving value, which is some reasonable compromise between safety and economy. And it's important that we do it as much as possible. Those of you who know the math understand that the more samples you have, the more points you have, the better you can do your curve fitting. It's a little bit more accurate, the greater your sample. So that's why we try to work at a very high rate, undershoot, overshoot continually, and we think that this will continue to trend upward. Also, it's often very difficult to deal with some of the underlying philosophies that people will bring to the table. In particular, as a large government control, small government control. At least I like to think that it's healthy for our country to be to keep a debate going, and I try to make a diagram of what a healthy debate is, constructive debate with a pendulum that goes in either direction. We understand that over here would be a total government control of infrastructure markets, and over here we would say that there is, we can put maybe the next version of this, I'll put the National Technology Transfer and Advancement Act. And NTTAA is the other side of this, where private industries are allowed to write their own rules, to discover their own leading practice, and that the federal government over here should be adopting them before it starts writing its own rules. Sounds nice in practice, but the fact is very often markets don't operate as fast. Markets probably know more, but it's also, markets know more maybe than the federal government, but in any case, it's important to understand that we need to have a certain amount of federal control. I think even the most ardent libertarian will say there are certain things the federal government should be doing, but if you don't want the federal government, you don't want congressional summer interns writing rules so that we should be putting humidity sensors and temperature sensors on every fan in every building on Earth. That's not good science or business. So that's what this is supposed to represent. Let's keep the debate going, participate in it, find out what this group does really well, find out what this group does really well, and if we keep moving here, this here might be the optimal place where we discover leading practice. So I like to say that if you think that the use of standards development processes, you think that those 3.4, the minus 2% we put the downward pressure on our costs will end. It does not. Regulations are a game played over and over again, as I'm fond of saying. So by the time we get back on Monday, there'll be a whole new raft of proposals by well-meaning people that we'll have to respond to, and very often we are the target market. And as we try to say, that if we don't want to participate in that market and to dicker and to negotiate what our costs should really be, what the real value is, to bargain, to do a bit of bid and ask, we need to be at those tables. So that's kind of what we do. And anything I might have forgotten here, Christine?
No, Mike, I think we've covered quite a bit for this week.
Okay. Well, we'll do something like this again next month. Our hope is that these get a little bit cleaner. As we're fond of saying, we're hoping many of the trade associations will pick up some of the educational burden here. We're in the business of really doing things, but it's important to communicate, and we have to spend this once a month showing what our numbers look like. And best of all, I like people to come and challenge our numbers, to say they're too much or too little, or we forgot something altogether. That's what we like, and you know where to find us.